Okay, so in my last video, I was explaining that I had been on Twitter for the last couple days, and I was like super sick. I had this horrible virus, so I was just like laying in bed, like not doing anything but like reading Twitter, and being generally horrified by like that platform. This is so awful. I will never. I'm just like done. I'm totally done. But anyway, I'm a little schlubby today. I'm wearing my Saint Michael the Archangel sweatshirt. But I'm not, I'm just like kind of in my PJs, like kind of make a little quick video. I've been really ill. But I wanted to talk today a little bit about modesty, which is hilarious because I'm in my pajamas right now. Um, and what the virtue of modesty is and its place in Christian, as a Christian virtue and its significance and like what it actually means and all of this stuff. So there was this young lady who has a Twitter page. I think she's on like a lot of social media. She actually goes to the church that I used to go to in Chicago. And her name is The Religious Hippie. And she is a beautiful young girl. She has this like really cute little YouTube or this little, I think she has a YouTube channel too, but she, really adorable stuff, like very, very sweet. She talks about, she promotes the faith, not in like a super she'll just like remind people to pray their rosaries and whatever. And she posted a picture of herself in an outfit, and it was like she was like, "Oh, this is a like for mass fit." I don't know what that means, but like I guess people put pictures of themselves in outfits before they go out or something. I don't know. And the trad Catholic world just completely freaked out. They were like, "Oh, like how dare you put a picture of yourself up?" Because all these men were posting. Um, about how cute she looked and, like how modest she was and all of this stuff. And then, all these traditional Catholics were attacking her for putting pictures of herself up and how she was doing that for attention from men and all this stuff. And like how, she's engaged and it's not appropriate for engaged women to get attention from men on the internet. Although I'm like, she's probably making a lot of money and I doubt that her fiance cares. I seriously doubt he cares that people are like, wow, your wife is super hot or your girlfriend or whatever. Like, I don't think he cares. I think he's probably quite delighted to have that money in the bank, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with their relationship. I just like, I'm in the performing arts and I will say, I know a lot of women with big time successful careers as singers, et cetera. And like, there's usually a man that's making a lot of those decisions behind the scenes for her. And like, it's usually women are not self-promoting them. Like, sometimes men will, but they'll have an agent or something. But like, there's usually like a dude that's pulling the strings a little bit with performing artists or like women that are famous. Like, I can tell you that as a singer. Not always, but like, there's usually somebody who's like a conductor or a coach, or there's usually a guy that is like kind of, promoting that woman behind the scenes or helping her, achieve that. But regardless, this is not about the religious hippie. It was an interesting, like, giant debate. And then people started, there were all these trad Catholics talking about modesty and like, what is modesty and like how women should be modest. And there was somebody that was like yelling about veils at church and how they're immodest because they don't cover your hair, which is okay. And like, they're decorated and like women shouldn't wear decorated veils at mass. And it just totally devolved into like this crazy, crazy, crazy thing. And I'm like, okay, all right, modesty. What is modesty and why do all Christians need to practice modesty? Not just women. And really what it is. And the thing is, it's really actually not about your clothing or covering up your body, even though that is often part of modesty. But like in India, for instance, a woman in a sari with her belly exposed, they expose their midriffs. She's modest by Indian standards. Now in America, women do not show their midriffs generally. I mean, teenagers do sometimes, but like grown women, like if you go to church or something, you're expected to cover up your midriff. Like that's considered immodest in our culture. But like in India, it's not. And these women have short sleeves often, and the saris and stuff will kind of cover them up. But they have a different standard of modesty there, and there's different standards of modesty in other cultures. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm not trying to say there isn't. I'm not trying to be. What is that called when you don't have like a general truth? Like everything is just like true based on whatever culture. I forget what that's called, but I forget. But anyway, there's like a concept here that I'm blanking out on because I've been so sick. I know that there's a general truth about modesty. And this is why I'm saying modesty standards are different in different cultures. because modesty is a virtue from the heart. A modest woman doesn't need inordinate amounts of attention. Okay. And a modest man doesn't need a lot of attention from people. They don't need to show off. And when it comes to a woman's body, a modest woman does not feel the need to draw attention to herself through the way that she looks or also the way that she acts. Okay. So you could be covered from head to toe in a mantilla, like a plain mantilla. You could have a plain veil and you could be covered from head to toe, completely hidden physically, and still not be modest if your behavior falls outside of the general norms of your culture. Okay, so if you are covered from head to toe, but you're being a total loudmouth or something like that, or like really trying to draw attention to yourself or saying really shocking things, that's like another way that would be against the virtue of modesty. If you say things that are if you're saying things that are shocking to get your attention to you, or if you, for instance, if you don't obey, or not obey, but if you don't abide by social graces when it comes to eating or other kind of, if you sit down at a table and start eating salad with your fingers, like we eat salad with forks in this country, or if you if you're rude at the dinner table, or you have these sort of like, if it goes against the cultural norms of your society in order to draw attention to yourself, then you are not acting with the virtue of modesty. Okay, so for this reason, I will say clothing modesty standards are they vary from woman to woman, because in our culture, depending on the age of a woman, the way that she dresses can be immodest or not modest, but there's no standard. And the reason I'm saying this is because for a high school girl, wearing, like if she's a Catholic, if she goes to Catholic school, like she's going to probably be showing her knees, or maybe slightly covering her knees, but more of her legs will be showing. Now, as a 40-year-old woman, I'm not going to show my legs at all. Like when I wear skirts, maybe a T-length, I'll wear a T-length skirt. Like I'll wear a skirt down to like my mid-calf. I'm not going to show my knees. Like I'm 40. Like it just, that seems it's not necessarily inappropriate for everybody. I'm not that tall, but if you're a super tall woman, like I have a friend who was like, I'm 5'10", like I'm showing my knees. I can't find a skirt that's long enough, right? So she's not immodest though. And because she's not trying to draw attention to herself, right? So anyone who is like a modest dresser, somebody like, I would say, Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, or I guess she's now the Princess of Wales. But anyway, in England, like I would say that she is a very modestly dressed woman. And the reason is like when you look at her, you're like, wow, she looks put together. She looks attractive, but there's never anything shocking about the way that she behaves in public. Like she doesn't seem to have that pride that like wants to draw attention to herself. Like she's just sort of, she's there. She seems very confident. She's very comfortable in what she's wearing. She wears very, beautifully tailored clothing. She looks attractive. But she's not like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Okay. She doesn't need to be. She's like the future Queen of England. Like everybody's looking at her anyway. But she to me is like a woman that is very, I find her very admirable because she doesn't want to make anything really about herself. And I know like in today's culture, like that might kind of like prick women a little bit, because it's like, why should women be hidden away? And I don't believe women should be hidden away. I believe that that a woman who is able to have her place in society in a way that people listen to her and actually really listen. I think that she's a much more forceful and powerful person than someone who gets attention because they're behaving in a way that is outside of cultural norms, or they're dressing in a way that's outside of cultural norms. So that person might get more attention on the outset, but that what they say is not going to have a lot of staying power, if that makes sense. And of course, I don't want to just make this about women, but I think with men, it's kind of the same thing. Like if you, like for instance, if you're a shock jock, it's immodest. So a man that gets attention because he says shocking things, or a man who, he says really shocking things to get people's attention, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to start following you on social media because you say crazy stuff. Like that man is not modest. He doesn't have the virtue of modesty. If you are somebody who's looking for attention for attention's sake for yourself, you lack the virtue of modesty. Now, if you're trying to highlight something that is outside of yourself, then you don't necessarily. So it's not to say that people that have a platform or people who are on the internet or anything like that are necessarily immodest. It's just the way that they go about getting that attention. So modesty, again, it comes from the heart. And I will say, like, I see, if you're dressed like an Amish person and you're not Amish, you're not modest because you're doing that for attention, maybe, or maybe you just have a bad, like, I'm not going to like judge people that do this stuff, but like, there's a certain part of me where I'm like, I'll go to a traditional church and like, I see women that are so covered up sometimes. And it's like, your eyes are drawn to them because you're like, wow, like I don't even know where to find an outfit like that. Like you're so outwardly showing your kind of religious superiority. And sometimes I think that those women are just like, they literally don't know how to dress modestly in a way that looks modern. It's like but like you'll see people at church and they almost look like, I don't know, like it's almost like they're like a peasant from the 19th century. It's just the 18th. I don't, is it like that to me isn't modest because you're drawing attention to yourself. Like I think what we want to aim for is that what comes out of our mouth has value, and our place in this world has value away from shocking behavior. And so if a woman is wearing, if her hair is like bright pink, she's not modest. She's not modest. Now, if every woman in the culture has bright pink hair, then she's modest because everybody has bright pink hair. So for that reason, if you color your hair a natural color, you're not necessarily immodest. That's just like what people do. Or if you're wearing makeup, that's just what people do. But if you come from a culture where nobody wears makeup, then you're immodest. Like one of my favorite books, Gone with the Wind, like the prostitute in it, the lady who's a paramour, she has rouge and everybody's talking about how she wears rouge. Well, today people wear rouge and they're not immodest, but this woman was a paramour and she had rouge and that's like considered really inappropriate. Not modest, right? And so it's about fitting in with the culture because you don't feel the need for attention. You feel satisfied emotionally with your relationship with Jesus. And you might want to share your relationship with Jesus with other people, or you might get up and like, I'm a singer, I sing for people. I think probably at times for attention. Absolutely. Like I am a convert. Like I've gone through many periods of my life not being a modest person. Like, in fact, I struggle with this a lot, like, cause I do struggle a lot with pride and I do, but if I'm singing at church, for instance, like it's not about me, it's about the music. And so that's really important it's a very important concept. It's very different than I think people understand it. So, and the other thing with modesty is yes, should we be careful as Christians not to tempt men towards sin? Yes. But again, that comes from the heart. That comes from the heart. So depending on what you're wearing, if you're looking for male attention, especially if you're looking for sexual male attention, that comes from the heart. If you just happen to be wearing an outfit that some man finds alluring, then that man finds that alluring. But if it's not from the heart, if you had no intention of drawing a man's eyes towards you in that moment, and I mean drawing a man's eyes in a sexual way, if that was not your intention at all, then I don't think you're immodest. Like it's not, nobody else can judge, I guess. And I'm kind of judging people saying that they're immodest if they're dressing a certain way, but which I don't mean to do. We don't know what's in anybody's heart, but modesty comes from the heart. It is for you. It is a personal discipline. It's not something that other people can judge. It's a personal discipline for yourself. It has nothing to do with the way that people interpret you. It has to do with whether or not you want people to interpret you a certain way. So if you're wearing a low-cut dress because you want men to be attracted to your chest, then you're not modest. No, I mean, maybe you're trying to find a guy to date or your husband or something like that. But I mean, I'm not necessarily judging that. It's like sometimes you're trying to draw attention. You got to be careful what kind of attention you're drawing and what kind of man you're drawing. Like I would dress modestly because I think it actually opens up more. If for single women, I think it actually opens up more doors for them in the dating department because I think men will be more comfortable around you because they're not worried about sinning by looking at you. I think they'll be more comfortable and more able to have a conversation with you if you're modestly dressed. Like I think a lot of men are made uncomfortable by women that might be showing more flesh than another woman. And it's not like they're necessarily judging her. It's just they're like, oh gosh, like that woman's really attractive, but like I don't want to like get sucked into having feelings that I don't want to have, right? In the same way that with anything, if we don't want to watch a car accident, because I don't want to watch a car accident. I don't want to see somebody get hurt. Like it's going to bother me, like my mind will be drawn to it. We have to practice custody of the eyes with everything in this life as Christians. But the modesty, again, it's not for other people. It's for you. It's for you. It's a personal discipline that you as a woman or a man, you purposefully try to put yourself lower in importance because you recognize that you're lower in importance under Christ. And so I hope that all makes sense. Anyway, goodbye.